company that has traditionally had a focus on traditional mechanical components, and I wanted to talk to you about how that evolution is happening for you. So, what are the new competencies that your company has had to develop in order to stay the course?
I would say that we are in a movement here that is moving more quickly than ever with generative AI entering the scene, software coding becoming the so much easier to reach with low code, no code kind of developments, and of course the computational power that's available. But I would like to anyway point to the fact that this is not a new revolution in the end, because actually the software revolution and actually putting sensors on machinery, we have been doing that for many, many years. And we can do much more now, but already some 30 years ago, SKF started to acquire a number of companies in the area of condition monitoring, sensing, starting to create algorithms that are based on the detailed knowledge that we have about, in a bearing where most of the load in anything that rotates is covered or it's taken by the bearing. And it's usually the thing that fails first as well, by the way, for that reason. And the minute details of how two metal surfaces with oil in between, exactly how that works, bringing that into algorithms that allows you to predict the future of machinery, to say this gearbox under these specific conditions and these bearings in this gearbox, this bearing here is going to last for 7 years, but this one over here is going to fail in 3 weeks unless you do something. So that whole kind of development has been going on for longer, but you can do so much more today. So for us, it's a journey we have been on for a long time. It is one of the things that we use to differentiate our products versus competition, but it also brings us, of course, into new markets. And I think components which are so critical to rotating machinery, like bearings, that's where you need to have the intelligence around predicting the future of that particular gearbox or windmill or train or whatever it is that has a rotating component. So for us, it's just bringing so much more possibilities to be better, even better at predicting the future. Now, so that's about our digital products and what we do with sensorization and condition monitoring. The other part is the digital customer experience. Now, we are so much more entangled digitally with our customers now than we were 10 or 15 years ago. We are supplying them with configurators so that they can solve the problem of which bearing to choose. We are helping them with our calculation software to do actual calculations. We have digital twins where our OEM customers are actually getting our digital twin into their digital model of their gearbox or of their train or whatever it is. And this is now becoming a digital customer experience on the next level when it becomes AI powered. We also have in the digital customer experience AI tools that helps our customers to answer any technical question they might have. And the SKF product assistance is actually available for anyone, so please go in and use it afterwards as well. What could be better on a Friday evening than to find out the actual weight of an 8301 bearing, right? So you can find that out with the SKF product assistant. It will answer any question through a generative AI interface of any technical information that we publish. So that means that our customers save time. Anyone who wants to know anything about rotation saves a lot of time, and it's very efficient. So that's about the customer experience then. And then also, of course, digitalization, applied AI is, of course, changing the landscape of how we operate internally as well. So first of all, if we look at what we can do with our internal efficiency in many areas, it's giving us a lot of new possibilities, and we've done a lot already. And the three areas we see with most potential from an AI efficiency strategy perspective, it's sales excellence, where you can have lead generation or, these kind of chat interfaces and handling of leads and customer data in a much more efficient way. The other area that we see is actually product development and how we can do design automation, virtual testing, and those kinds of things. And the third area is in our operations and in our supply chain. planning with AI tools in the background, and also within the manufacturing area of visual aids in manufacturing and so on. So it's affecting us a lot. And the movement that we've seen over the last 3 years or so is, of course, everything is speeding up, so we have to be on our toes. We have to, but the possibilities are so much greater. So we are happy to do that. And for someone who loves technology, it's a great time to be in, isn't it?
No, I couldn't agree more. I wonder now if you could go to a more specific example and take one, I guess, a component, a bearing, a specific bearing. Help me understand more in at a practical level, how might digital and AI technologies accelerate the evolution of bearing design? Um,
Mm,
you talk more specifically at the component level, what
yeah.
that application engineer is saying, what the design engineer needs to understand, looking at the bearing today and the design of that bearing as opposed to 10, 15 years ago before AI.
Yeah. So it's very interesting because actually bearing technology is evolving all the time. The same bearing or the same size bearing can today be used to do so much more. It can take more power, it can take more load, it can actually take more torque. And, it's always evolving. And it's everything from the materials technology down to the actual bearing design and how you test it and how you validate it. But I would like to give you two examples. The first one is about design automation. So what happens is usually that you have an application engineer that works with a customer. Let's say that we have a railway company, they're making a new bogie design, for example. And our application engineer is working with this customer, to really get that design right, get our digital twins into their railway set and so on. And as they do that, they might have questions and they might say, well, what if I change the load like this? Or what if I have this grease in the bearing? Will that change the lifetime or will it actually affect the bearing? They can now ask that product assistant. We have a more powerful internal version. And before, they might have to have used 3 hours or sometimes even a week before they found the right expert, before they could find the right answer. So I see it like the application engineers now are more like 1,000 people in one person. And 10 years ago, they were probably only 10 people in one person. So you're accelerating and really putting our application engineers, in 100 times the speed. So that's one way. And let's say then that they find that, no, we have to design a new bearing for you, dear customer, because you have these very specific demands and you want it to fit into your application. Well, that's when we come into the design automation journey that we are on. So there, what we do is we're building now automated systems where you can design a bearing automatically almost with the input data, but you need all of the knowledge and all of the history and all of the test data that we have gathered over the years to be able to then do bearing design much more quickly with the help of design automation tools. And that in the end takes us to the verification or validation stage, where virtual validation, we are expecting to reduce our testing capacity with 50% over the next 5 years because we will go more into virtual testing. We have done that already before, but now with the computational power stepping up with new GPUs coming out and so on, we see that we can do so much more. So really shortening that development time into maybe a third of what it was before, because the testing phase is usually quite cumbersome and long. So all of those things are actually changing a couple of things then. They're changing the speed of which we can work. They're changing the accuracy of the work we do. And it's actually making us being able to serve our customers more quickly with more specific solutions. So that's the impact it has on the everyday life of the engineers and of our customers in the end. And it will only continue, this will continue. And it actually strengthens the importance of having that technological base, because if you don't have that, you don't have any data to build these things on.
You said the right word, data. It matters so much more today on everything we do. And which brings me to my next thought, which was We now we went down to the component level. Let's take it up a little bit higher. Let's talk about the market itself. So in a competitive market where bearings can be easily sourced from suppliers globally, and you did say that you work with 22 countries, with colleagues in 22 different countries. So I wonder what that global perspective is then at SKF. How does your digitalization strategy help your company stand out as a provider of efficiency, of performance, and availability, rather than just a supplier of mere components?
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. And I think when it comes to a component like a bearing, I'm sure that many people who look at a bearing company or a bearing product at a distance thinks, well, this has been invented. SKF started in 1907. So, just doing the same thing as was done 100 years ago. What could be so complicated with that, and we're constantly trying to, and I explained a little bit earlier as well of, if we have a company designing a new gearbox or a company that wants to design a new railway set that should last 5 million kilometers between maintenance stops instead of 1 million kilometers between maintenance stops, everything will kind of depend on the bearing, because that's where all the load is transported into the ground. And what we see is that there's so many things that are yet to discover. I talked to you before about, 10 years ago or 20 years ago, you needed a bearing of this size to do the job. Now it's enough with this size. So you can really tell the difference, that there is so much with this technology that is still moving, and that you can really outperform your competition. But the big thing that really stands out here is also having all of the knowledge from research through all the development phases, research about the steel that is used, the minute details about the interior design of the bearing, using other materials than steel, like ceramic materials, to make sure that you can run electric vehicles without them breaking down with insulation of electricity. All of those things are constantly moving. And what we can see is that the digital part of this is that as we also embed sensors into our bearings, we also become so much better at that, predicting the future of any bearing was out there in a machine. One example of that I would like to bring forward is actually the work that we have done together with DMG Mori, one of the biggest machine tool manufacturers in the world, where they are really, making machine tools or machine automation equipment that is going to move faster. It needs to do more things. It's going to be able to both grind and drill and so on. And they need more, they just need more. So we have our super precision bearings that we sell to them, but we have now used our fiber optic sensing insights technology to be able to put sensors on the actual bearing race just outside the bearing race, integrated fully into the bearing. You don't have to rebuild the machine at all. And from that, actually, you can get the exact load from the whole circumference of the bearing, and also the temperature all the way through, which means that you can use this signal to steer your machine tool. So that means that you can actually use this, and it's a closed loop system, because it's the bearing that will guide exactly how fast you can run. Do you want to run those 60,000 RPMs? Then you probably have to change the load, or you have to change the cycle, and you can actually optimize the life of your whole machinery. And before if it's going to fail in 1 week or in 10 years, So this is how digital technologies and digital products is really, really important, and increasingly important to our customers as well. So that's one way to differentiate. The other one is, of course, the digital customer experience, the calculation tools, the data we can provide to our customers. We have a collaboration with Ansys, where we do our digital twins, and they are put into the Ansys tool that most of our customers use when they design their products. And all of this together with our ability to move quicker as a result of our digital strategy brings more innovative and new products out faster that fits our customers' different needs. I mean, all of that is crucially important. So for any component company, I would say digitalization, AI is a must, and nobody can ignore that.